Hi, and welcome to How to Grow Your Business with Kevin Willett. As you can see, I got my friend Penny with us from Total Circle HR. Good morning, Penny. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
That was my friend. So before we jump in, tell me a little bit about yourself and your HR background.
Sure. I have over 25 years experience in HR, but I didn't start out in HR. I started out in operations for the first 10 years of my career, but then realized that my passion was actually in HR. But I feel that my background in operations has helped me be the successful HR practitioner that I am because I understand the totality of the business and how HR actually fits into the business and not the opposite way.
So, Penny, I got a topic today that nobody wants to talk about, succession planning. You just see situations where someone grows a successful business and dies unexpectedly. They may have a couple of children who some may want to be involved in business. Some may hope, hey, let's just sell this and give me the big check. I can buy a nice house and be good for the rest of my life. But I find a lot of us just don't want to talk about it. It's like life insurance. Penny, I'm not going to die.
Mhm.
Penny,
Right.
I'm not going to die. I got another 50 years before I have to think about this. It's almost a disservice to your business, especially if you have employees, to not have a plan in place. Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And the old cliche with insurance, Kevin, is like you never want to use it. But that's the reason you have it. And when you think about succession planning, it's a little bit similar. I mean, you're eventually going to use it. People leave a business, either voluntary, involuntary, or God forbid they are no longer with us. So it is really, really important for business owners, especially that small to medium sized business that's doing well, but may not have that full senior leadership team to say, okay, well, if I'm not here, then the COO or somebody else in the senior leadership team can take over. So it's really, really important. But what happens is nobody wants to have that conversation. It's a little bit of I'm always going to be here, nothing's ever going to happen to me, and why would I train somebody to take over for me? But when it's your business, it is your role to have some type of succession plan.
So, Penny, for the sake of first scenario, let's assume the company's big enough. You have an HR director of HR,
Hmm.
not someone who's doing it on the side. You have a legitimate. How do you go into your CEO and have that conversation with them without them maybe getting mad at you?
I mean, I think one, it depends on your relationship with
Right.
the CEO, but two, it's really being open, honest, and transparent to say, we're part of a growing business. Um, we have to put plans in place should something happen. Like there could be an emergency that a CEO is taken, he's not in the business for a couple of months, and then what happens? Your business just can't stop because that person's not there. And I'm not a proponent. I was in corporate America for 25 years, and we always had to go through succession planning every year with the boxes and put people in boxes. And I used to say, you can't put people in boxes. Who was here? Who was a hypo? Who was this? And then every year I would have to submit, okay, if Penny's not here anymore, who's going to take over, et cetera, et cetera. And then when it came to the point that if Penny wasn't here anymore, you didn't even look at those forms. So again, a little bit of a waste of time. But you really have to have those discussions to say, okay, who do we have in our organization that can take over should somebody leave? Should somebody not be here because they're no longer on this earth? And then it helps you say, I don't have the bench to be able to do this. We're going to have to start looking elsewhere. And the better companies will start to do that. Or they'll say, okay, Penny might not have the skills right now. How do we develop that person? So our business is future proof. That's really what it is.
Penny, I don't want to do it because God, you're amazing. And I don't want to say if something happens to me, Penny's going to take over because my board might realize that Penny should be taking over right now because Penny's just better at the job than I could ever be. I feel threatened. That must happen a lot, right?
That is probably, I would say, 85% of the reason that people don't do proper succession planning or put anything down because they feel threatened. And a CEO should, I'm a firm believer in I want to develop whoever my direct report is to be better than me, to take over when I'm not there. So if that is the reason that somebody in senior leadership isn't doing it, I honestly think we have another problem on our hands. Because the board, when you report to a board, they're going to constantly ask, like, who's the successor? What is the plan should somebody leave?
So, Penny, I have two amazing people. Either one of them should be CEO. I make the announcement I'm going with Penny. She's going to be my successor. The other person shakes my hand, says, I understand, but I just quit because
Mhm.
my past block. Penny's been the chosen one. So sometimes it feels like I might upset the proverbial apple cart by making that announcement. So I might be a little, I'm not going to do it because I don't want Kev to leave.
Happens all the time. It happened. And again, I really think it starts with that communication and how we're communicating with our employees and what are we saying and how are we meeting their expectations. So in that scenario, we do we do have to be open and honest with the two people that could be the successor. And even when one of them doesn't get the role, what is their future role, right? Do they then move into the position that is vacated and then they actually become that second in command? It really starts with setting those expectations with our employees, being open and honest, and hoping that those employees can see the future in the company.
Last scenario, family run business, two kids and a nephew. A
Mm.
niece, let's make it a niece. And I'm going with the niece because she's brilliant. Penny, my
Mhm.
kids hate me now. I
Mhm.
just chose my niece over them. That's probably going to be a bad Thanksgiving, Penny.
Yeah, it
But I
probably
see why
is.
people don't want to do that because, hey, this is the business. I have to do what's right for the business, my employees, my shareholders, whoever. God, man, my niece is amazing. She's just better than my two or three kids. But they're not going to take that news really well because my niece may not see them the way I see them. Maybe like, hey, just so you know, Uncle Kev's out, and guess what, Penny daughter, you're out too because he's been like looking the other way on you for years because you're his daughter. That feels really bad, Penny.
It does, and it won't make for a very good Thanksgiving, but I I tend to say it's business, it's not personal, and I think that
It's
those
my
two
dad. You can't get
I
any more
think
personal than that,
I,
Penny.
I think those two daughters actually know, and they might be ticked off in the moment, but then I think they might also be relieved. And again, where's the conversation on what their growth is within the business? And it's really hard with family because like you said, we a lot of times we put blinders on, or it becomes the opposite. We're too hard on them. So we let other employees get do things. And then when it's our own family, we're so critical on them. And again,
Uh-huh.
I think it really is when you have a family business, it is setting those boundaries. It is saying that this is business, it's not personal. And guess what? In my will, you're going to get this. Uh, and knowing that the niece is the stronger person to carry on what the vision of the company is.
So, Penny, if people want to talk about succession planning and how to have these conversations to save Thanksgiving, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. It's Penny at totalcirclehr.com.
Penny, I appreciate you taking a few minutes to call on the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
Thank you so much.